You are listening to the Ready PDM Network.
This episode is brought to you by Under 10 Consulting. For many organizations, it seems products get released by individual heroics. Yet most organizations need a small number of living documents, fewer than 10, to manage their products and services. Contact Under 10 for a product playbook designed specifically for your organization.
Are you ready?
I look at a product manager as a CEO for the product.
Sometimes you need to dig into, well, what do you really mean by responsibility? Because you can take the blame for something but have absolutely no control over it.
What does a product manager do?
I am the CEO of my product.
In my experience, product owner is more of a role, not a job title. So you can be anybody, be a product owner. And in companies that have a product manager, that's most likely who the product owner is.
You know, when I think of the product owner as the CEO of the product, right?
Great
and
answer.
That,
great analogy.
We've all got this crippling thing called SCAD. Does anybody want to take a guess or know what SCAD is?
I'd like to institute an organizational system called Scrum. Scrum is designed specifically...
you have 1 hour...
Scrum?
Yes, Scrum.
Scrum.
Hello, Ready Product Radio heads, and welcome to another exciting episode of Ready Product Radio. This week we have something a little different. Instead of an interview, we have a recording of a presentation I gave at the 2015 Ottawa Product Camp, entitled Is Agile Killing the Product Manager? This was recorded live in a large auditorium with audience participation by about 100 people, so apologies in advance for the audio quality. I talk with the audience about the various ways in which the product manager and product owner roles can coexist, and what I believe to be the real threat to the product manager. A SlideShare link to the presentation slides will be included in the episode notes on the website. Special thanks to the Ottawa Product Management Association and Ottawa Product Camp teams for hosting a great event. Ready Product Principle number 33 is, product work can be lonely work, but it doesn't have to be. Join meetup groups, associations, and attend camps, hackathons, and other events for inspiration, education, and a sense of community. Enjoy the show.
Excellent. So you can see here that I didn't have an editor because I've got no question mark after the provocative question, is Agile killing the product manager? Just a little bit about me, and then we'll find out about you guys. You can see by my gray hair that I'm basically like Sergeant Rock here, rather than the guy that has gone through the ranks up to general and whatnot. I basically found my level. I've been in a product manager position for basically 20 years, mostly B2B software product management, but I've resisted moving up because I just love the job so much, and I haven't gotten bored of it. So I'm the grizzled veteran here. I attended my first pragmatic marketing class in 1997 in San Francisco. At that time, it was still being taught by the founder of Pragmatic, Craig Stull. And I've been a volunteer leader of the Toronto Product Management Association since 2004. So I recently was president, 2014-2015 of the association. And then I stepped down and I'm basically donating my energy now to this podcast effort called Ready Product Radio. So, for example, right after the keynote this morning, I took Sash into one of the rooms there. We did an interview. So I do a weekly podcast. It's focused on product broadly, so not just product management. I'm going to have designers on there and a bunch of things. And that's my current way of kind of giving back to the community. So I'm taking the 12 to 15 hours that I used to put in the TPMA and putting it into the podcast now. So anybody that's interested in podcasts, let me know and I can help you find that. So my contact information, if you're interested, I'm at Alan Neal on Twitter if you want to tweet me, and there's my LinkedIn address there as well. So that's me. Before we get into this evocative question, let's find out about you. So a couple of basic questions, just show of hands here. So how many people are in shops that are using Agile, just by a show of hands? Okay, so most everybody else. Is there anybody that's using something that is not a variant of Agile? In other words, pure waterfall or something? No. No pure waterfall people, okay. Now, another show of hands. How many people out there are somehow involved in product management? You have a product manager title, director, VP. Okay, almost all of us. How about a product owner title? Don't be shy back there. You can put it up higher than that. He's kind of like, yeah, I am. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Thank you for sharing. Some housekeeping notes. Thank you to the Ottawa team. I'm from Toronto, and it's great to come up and see another community. I was actually in Halifax about 3 weeks ago looking at their community, and they're just getting started, so they're probably where you guys were about 3 years ago. So thank you to everybody for putting this event together. I know how much work these events are. In addition to the Product Management Association, we've had 10 product camps in Toronto. So I thought let's start by all giving our thanks to all of the organizers. I don't know them by name, but a big round of applause. These things are a lot of hard work, and without their love of the game, as they say it, these things wouldn't happen. So very much appreciate that. The other thing I wanted to point out just before we jump in here, I know the OPMA is probably just like the TPMA. My motto when I was with the TPMA was always be recruiting for volunteers and future leaders. So my challenge to all of you out there is if any of you have some spare time and some spare energy to donate to the Ottawa Product Management Association, please talk to Mike or Andrew or any of the other groups, because you've always got to be bringing new blood into those volunteer organizations, because it takes so much work to run them. If people get burned out, they have lives, so please look at doing that as well. Okay? So before we jump in, last point here, let's make this fun and interactive session. So if I put something up here that you violently disagree with, just say, hey, Alan, that's BS, and let me tell the group why. I'm fine with that. I'd rather have a group discussion here than a lecture style. Is that fair? Yeah. Okay, good. So let's jump into it. So 1997, I go out. I've been a software developer at the point for about 5.5 years. I get put into this brand new group they call product management. None of us know what that is. So the VP flies the 5 of us out to San Francisco because there was no product management training in Toronto. And what we're told is the product management is the CEO of the product. How many people have heard that before and been sold that and told that and trained that? Yeah, almost everybody? Good.
How many of you are still in product management?
Yeah, good question. So on the drive down, because it was about a 4.5-hour drive yesterday, I'm a podcast fanatic. So I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts called Agile for Humans. And if you like podcasts, I suggest you check that out. And they were focusing on the role of the product owner. And they said about 10 times in that podcast that the product owner is the CEO of the product. And I thought, wait a second, where have I heard that before? I thought the product manager was the CEO of the product. So how many people in this room think that it's the product owner that is actually the CEO of the product? Okay, a couple of people there. Yeah, so now you start to see some of the tension because we then have to ask ourselves, okay, who really owns the product? Question.
I'm new to product manager. What is the product owner versus the product manager?
Yeah, so we're gonna get into that a little bit in terms of the scope of the responsibilities. Does anybody want to answer that real quickly? We've got a lot of product management experts here. Anybody want to share what the product manager's responsibility is? Go ahead.
So in my company, we have kind of an internal-external model.
There you go. I almost like do the more Griffin thing.
So in my company, we have an internal-external model where the product owner interfaces with the engineering team and the external product manager interfaces with the customer and the marketing, sales organizations, etc. So they're kind of tied at the hip, but one is more technically focused and works with the R&D team on the execution side.
Yeah, Rick, can I get there?
The question comes down to who owns P&L, profit and loss.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah. Does that help for you for now, or?
In the Scrum model, there's no difference.
Yeah, let's keep rolling, because here's my next question, and I did remember to put the question mark here. Does it really matter? So again, going back to my 1997 pragmatic marketing training, we said, okay, let's use these things called personas to help us understand the needs of the customers. And then we fast forward to 2015, and now we're talking a lot. I did a podcast interview, for example, with Kim Phelan, who's VP of Product at Clearfit, Toronto, and she said, personas are old. I've switched to jobs to be done, which is part of this outcome-driven innovation approach. So now it's all about jobs to be done, and that's what I use to understand the needs of the customer. So then I go back to my 1997 training again, and these were the jobs that Pragmatic said had to be done. So to your question, right, we've got two different roles. We've got all these jobs to do. We better figure out and understand who's doing what, because that's a lot of work to be done, right? So fast forward to 2015. So answer to your question specifically, product manager was defined back in 1997 to be these activities. And look at here, 2015, the product owner, vision and roadmap, value, features and user experience, market personas. Any of that sounding familiar? When I look at it, it seems like the same. Again, so 1997, CEO of the product, 1997, pragmatic marketing grid, 2015, product owner, CEO of the product, and basically the same set of responsibilities. So what do we do here? Have a cage match? Two roles enter, one role leaves, that type of thing. And how do we deal with this? So I'd be interested in the experience of the group here, but one scenario that you hear is, okay, we have one person act as both the product manager and the product owner. So let me see a show of hands. Does anybody work in a fashion where you're both, or you have team members that are both product owners and product managers? Yeah, okay. And how does that generally work? Does it work pretty well, or? Yeah, okay.
Product owner is more.
Just a second, let me give my word, Griffin. And you got to be old like me to get that reference.
From my experience, product owner is more of a role, not a job title. So you can be anybody, be a product owner, and in companies that have a product manager, that's most likely who the product owner will be.
So stay there with there. So you're saying though at your company, it's the same person that does everything?
Yes.
That's on that grid. Okay.
Yeah.
And do they sleep? No. Okay, thanks. So there's another possible model here as well. Maybe we have a dynamic duo. So instead of Superman, maybe now we go to the Batman and Robin scenario. And I'm not sure which one's Batman and which one's Robin. If it was me, I would make the product manager Batman and the product owner Robin, but if I was product owner, I might go the other way around. Anybody in here have a shop where you're using this model? Yeah. So how do you determine who does what then, if you're splitting the responsibilities?
It's primarily what the other gentleman said at the beginning, that the product owner is internal, really leads and corrals the engineering team to deliver on time, etc. And then the product manager represents the interests of the external parties.
Excellent. Any other comments on that model? Anybody else doing it? Yep.
I'll speak for my last role. The product owner is a kind of agile definition, and a lot of engineering shops try to move to agile before the organization as a whole looks to move to agile. What I found worked very well was basically nominating somebody out of the engineering or design organization to act as the product owner, interfacing with product manager, because it tends to be a lot of detailed activity that happens in the agile product owner type of role, it doesn't deal with all of the outbound commercially focused activities that a product manager may have.
Excellent. Thank you. So is that it? So now going back to 1997, what we heard when we were at our training in 1997 of pragmatic marketing was the biggest complaint of product managers was we don't have enough time for the strategic activities. We get too much caught up in tactical distractions. So let me ask here for the ones who said that they were product managers or worked in product management. This issue ring true at all? Sound familiar? Yeah, got some heads nodding. So that's 1997. And you know what's next? We're going to fast forward to 2015. So 2015, Pragmatic Marketing does their annual survey. What's on the top in terms of complaints of product managers? We need more resources to deal with the day-to-day tactical activities. Now, you just told me that we have a product owner now to deal with some of these day-to-day tactical issues, right? So I found this interesting, and we could say, okay, well, maybe the Pragmatic Marketing group is bent more towards traditional product managers. If you look at the 280 group, their survey is saying the same thing. 57.4% say product managers are too tactically focused, not strategic enough, and those using Agile, 69.9%, say product manager and product owner are the same person. So basically, what this is saying is same problem. One more data point for the Product Management Association of Los Angeles. Actual time allocation, 64% tactical, 34% strategic. Ideal allocation, 50-50. So let me again check in with the group here. So whether you're a product manager or a product owner, how many people would say they spend more than 50% of their energy supporting tactical activities? Okay, about half of you. And how many would say that they spend 50% or more supporting strategic activities? Just a very small few, okay? And you can probably see where I'm going here, right? Maybe it's not a matter of roles or methodologies, as somebody was saying, but maybe it's a matter of focus, right?
You need to focus that 5% on strategic.
Yeah.
To be very effective.
Definitely. So again, we're back to 1997. Craig Stull, president of Pragmatic Marketing. And what he was saying to us, green kind of trainees, is you have to make time to get out of the office. You can't understand the customer inside your own four walls. The answer is out there. So how many people in the product manager role, because we heard that that's your role, to be external facing, voice of the customer, understanding the customer. How many of you think you spend enough time interfacing with customers to really understand their needs properly? Never enough, eh? Okay. A couple hands went out there, okay. Again, fast forward to 2015. As I was mentioning, I did the interview with Kim Phelan, VP at ClearFit, and I always ask my interviewee people, if you could go back, if they're old like me, I ask them 20 years. If they're a little younger, like Sasha was today, I say 10 years. But if you could go back and give your younger self some advice, what advice would you give your younger self? And look what she said without even skipping a beat. You can listen to it. Get out of the office more, right? So you can see where I'm coming here, which is, maybe we got to reframe the issue and the question, right? So now to your question, I was hoping this picture might help you make some sense of it, because what a lot of people are saying here is you can have two roles: the product owner, which tends to deal with the development team and the technical side, and the product manager, which tends to deal with the market side, right? And that's pretty common. These two, as somebody said over here, these are roles. It doesn't have to be a job title. I think it was you, right? So these could be the same person, or they could be different people. But the key thing is there's somebody out there called a user, and somehow we have to translate what that user needs into our product, okay? And figure out how to do that. So,
Alan,
yeah.
Interrupt for a sec. I really like your slide.
No, let me do that. Let me do my Murph Griffin. We need everybody to hear you. There you go.
I really like this slide because it really stresses how important it is for the product team, the people doing the work, to meet with the customer.
Yeah.
And not only does the product manager meet with the customer, otherwise the team just doesn't understand what the customer really is.
Yeah.
They don't have the same knowledge that the product manager does.
Does anybody else have any other comments along those same lines? You look like you're challenging that.
Yeah, I think both of us kind of went.
Share your thoughts.
Yeah, I just think our engineering team is so large, it would be nice if some of them could meet with the customer, but I feel like that's what our team is meant to do, that we're meant to get that knowledge and translate it with them so that they don't all have to have that same sort of basic knowledge.
And how do you get that knowledge?
In the product management team?
Yeah, how do you
we make sure we go to sites and sit with the customer and actually watch what they do. We go to user conferences, sales conferences, that type of thing. And I guess we generally don't send the engineering team to that because we don't want to take up too much of their time.
But you drag one engineer with you.
We do, yeah, we will send them. There will be people who will go to those types of things within our team, but certainly, it would be like 3 out of 100 as opposed to 50.
Yeah, oh, that's great.
Okay.
Thanks, those are good comments. So question for the audience here then, in terms of Agile, because I think what that graphic is really suggesting is that in Agile, you're building lots of prototypes, you're building feature-level prototypes, you're building, doing a demo per sprint. I think what they're suggesting there is bring somebody in that can represent your customer, maybe the actual customer themselves, and that obviously would be ideal. Or it could be somebody that represents the customer really well, which could be a product manager, could be a VP of sales. In my organization right now, on our innovation committee, we actually have our president as our voice of the customer, just based on his years of experience, and he knows our customers really well. So we can show him a prototype and get the same feeling as if we're showing that to our entire group. Any other comments on voice of the customer? Yeah. Let me.
I'm going to half plug my next session, but what I think is very cool is the new world of this is that you don't have to go out to the customer. You're in the SaaS world, you're pulling data all the time on behaviors. You're changing buttons and where they work, and hopefully you're A/B testing that stuff in real life. So you're not relying on one person or sending them here one story. You're actually pulling that data all the time and making these decisions, hopefully back to the product team on the fly. That's more the future.
So plug your session.
The next session's on subscription economy and how we're doing this kind of stuff for customer success to make our clients successful right here.
Okay, perfect. Good plug. Yeah, that whole idea of data is one I was talking with Sasha about as well, because I'm an old guy. When I started building the enterprise software, if I didn't specifically ask my engineers to build in, for example, logs to track activity or logs to track when people logged in, sometimes they couldn't even tell me how many people were using the software in a given month. And now that's just much easier, as you're saying. A lot of people use the word telemetry for that, right? You can get ideas. So let's keep rolling here. So basically, what I'm suggesting here is maybe we need to reframe the question. So maybe it's not about, is Agile killing the product manager, although that got all your butts in the seats. So that was a good title. But maybe our product managers killing themselves. And then I thought, no, that sounds kind of dark, and we don't want to think about that. So maybe our product managers disempowering themselves. That sounds a lot more new age and fun, right? And then I thought, maybe we all have a disease. Maybe we've all got this crippling thing called SCAD. Does anybody want to take a guess or know what SCAD is? And any doctors or physicians or med students in the audience here? No? So SCAD is a debilitating disease crippling 70% of all product managers, according to the statistics. And what it is it's strategy and customer attention deficit disorder. So basically what it is, it doesn't matter whether we're the product owner or the product manager. We can see whether it's a 1997 survey or a 2015 survey, we're focusing too much internally on what's going on in between our own four walls. And we're not focusing enough on strategy and customer. And maybe that's the issue, that whether we call ourselves product owners or product managers, that we want to focus on is who owns making sure that A, we have a strategy, and B, we have a way to connect with the customer. Does that make sense? Okay. So product managers and product owners, here's my rallying cry. Let's unite against the real enemy, which is SCAD. Okay, that's the real enemy, is we let ourselves get sucked in too much by internal politics, by what's going on in between our four walls, and not enough time understanding the strategy of the company. And that's an important one. Let me check with you guys, because I know my answer to this, but how many of you, let's say we do the elevator story here, right? So let's say we're on the 4th floor, we're going down to the 1st floor. How many of you could explain your company and your product strategy to me before we got from floor 4 to floor 1? A couple, 3, 4, 5? No? Okay. So let's say we're starting on the 40th floor and we're going down. How many could explain their company strategy, their product strategy from floor 40 to floor ground? Yeah, still not as much as you'd expect, right? So that strategy is an important piece as well. And it seemed like the consensus of the group was that the product manager, now that we've got the product owner looking after all those tactical details and working with the engineering team, there should be no excuse why the product manager shouldn't be able to articulate both the company and product strategy and the key customer priorities at any point in time, right? But we can see from the research that somehow those product managers in 2015 are still letting themselves get sucked in to too much of the tactical activities. Well, when I look at this, I'm saying now you've got it even easier, because now you have somebody called the product owner that can do all those tactical items in the grid, right? If we go back to the grid here, right? Strategic, tactical. Well, now we've got the product owner that can do a lot of the tactical stuff. So what's the excuse for this strategy work not getting done? Is it laziness? Is it stupidity? Right? I think that's something that we've got to solve as a discipline, because next year, 2016, the year after that, 2017, I'd like to see that strategy, that survey from Pragmatic Marketing or from 280 Group show that that's not the number one issue, right? That we're too caught up in tactical details. So that's my presentation. I'll open the floor for questions now. Yep, let me give me a second.
I'm going to make you run back and go back a couple of slides. Can you bring up the one with the little groups of people?
Here.
Oh, that power. Well, it is a question. Okay. So, this is I think it's a very interesting slide. It shows the two main approaches I've seen, and they both seem to be fatally flawed. The one at the top, the fatal flaw is that if the product owner is participating in the scrums and making the day-to-day, week-to-week decisions, he's not spending enough time out of the organization listening to the users. He's got that standard, tactical inward focus, which is solved by the one at the bottom. Well, what I've seen with the one at the bottom is that all the power actually lies with the product owner. He owns the keyboards and the compiler, and the product manager can have great insight and great input, but the product owner can just ignore him. So I would say I haven't seen a good solution to the combinational separation of those roles yet.
So anybody have a good comment or answer on that? I'll run it over for you. Make it exercise.
Thank you. I think you have to hire the right people for the right roles for the right reasons. So I think at some point it's the wrong question, right? If those developers are so intransigent, why are we as product managers always so very kind to our developers? Why do we let them boss us? Who says they have power? Screw them. They report up. It's a business. End of the day. So I don't put on the asshole hat very much, right? I'm friends with everybody. But if you're really out of line and he's going to go to war, you have to teach them that they're going to pick the battles. Whoever that he is, it's a function of their personality. Some people always come back and challenge everything, and they're rigid. But that's not the problem of the roles and responsibilities. It's a problem with the individual. If it escalates to be a real HR issue, there's approaches to that, right? But that's not a product management issue. That's a personality issue in its extreme. Just one thought.
Somebody over here. Should be one of my steps ever. Get lots of steps in.
Well done. I think it was expressed well by the fellow over in the corner there. I mean, the short answer is presumably the product manager holds the money. And the way we're developing team, the profit loss aspect that was referred to earlier, the guy holding the money for the development team, screw you. If you're not going to do what you're asked, then the product isn't going to gain money through the sales channel in order to pay the bills for you to stay there as a developer.
Yeah, good point. And what I've heard a lot of is we're talking a lot about team psychology and organizational psychology. To your point, there can be much more passive forms of aggression, which is, it's taking longer, sorry, or we just don't understand the requirements. Could you explain it again? They understand it perfectly well, they disagree with them, right? So I think where we're getting to as a group here is that role, if there's going to be two people, like if it's just me, I can say, Alan, I need the team to move faster, I need you to focus on feature X, Y, Z. Well, could you explain that to me a little better, Alan? I don't quite understand. Come on, you understand. Stop being passive-aggressive, Alan. Just do it. But if it's two people, then that relationship is really, really important. It becomes one of the most important relationships, probably second only to your relationship between the product manager and the customer. That product manager, product owner relationship. Remember, it could be multiple. It could be product manager to many product owners. Probably becomes the second most important relationship. You had a comment, sir.
Yeah. One of the problems I've run into is with the product teams is that they'll shop for the answer they want. So, you decide to take a certain direction, person doesn't like it, and they keep asking customers until they find one that will agree with them. And you may have made it, you may have had a 10-day discussion already on why we're going to do it this way versus another way, but I find it disruptive and you end up doing rework at a product management level or product owner level on a continuous basis.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The other observation I made is I worked in an organization where the product managers changed over time. So my strength was on the strategic customer side, standards. I work on standards committees, all this stuff. So I had a very good view of the outside world. And I would get into the middle stages of the development, at which point the tactical people would take over and deal with the in-house people. So, but we didn't have P&L responsibility per se.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Got another comment over here, and then let's talk about the P&L because I think that's a bunch of mythology. But anyway.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, as a product manager, I feel my scope is beyond just voice of the customer. It's, should we be partnering with somebody else? Should we be investigating other technologies to incorporate in the product? Should we be finding a better channel, different channel for a particular initiative? So I feel there's quite a bit more to the strategy that it's not as narrow as just voice of the customer.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It's the product manager a lot more to do. Yeah.
I just want to comment and observe that the product owner in this position that we've seen on the chart is really a guiding focus for the team. And they're ensuring that the product pipeline and the execution of that pipeline is going exactly the way it's supposed to. Many times the other aspect is the product owner has a product to work on. They're not looking for a product.
Can you explain a little bit more what that means? They have a product and other people product?
Yeah, so a lot of times when I go and ask a particular, let's say, project manager or a product manager and ask them to describe their product, they stumble. Whereas I would expect from a product owner to understand that wholeheartedly.
So let's talk about this P&L thing, because I've loved this one for a long time, for 20 years. So how many people in the room that have product management in their title have P&L responsibility or P&L responsibility in their direct line of reporting? Mark, you do? A couple other people? Okay. Because I've, myself, in 20 years, I've always had, I would say, influence over that, but never had the privilege of having direct profit loss responsibility. So they tell you that in the training because it makes you, feel like you're important. But I haven't seen it that much.
Who had it?
Just Mark. He's the only one I've ever seen that's had it.
In your experience, the alternative.
Oh, where P&L sits? It's typically either been with like a business line manager, so you might have different business lines within the company, and there'll be a general manager of each business line. I've also seen it with finance, oftentimes in larger organizations. So that's the answer to that. Who was going to be my time checker? How am I doing for time?
10 minutes.
I got 10 minutes. Okay. No, it's okay. I'm coming to you.
No, not this time. Just a comment about that one on the P&L responsibility. I think sometimes you need to dig into, well, what do you really mean by responsibility? Because you can take the blame for something but have absolutely no control over it. Which one of those is responsibility? And I would say my experience as a product manager is, I'm responsible in that I'm held accountable to whether my product is successful. But I don't actually have the reins on hiring and firing people or controlling costs or how many people get assigned to my product. So it's more of carrying the blame rather than having control.
That's a good point. I've often found that one way to think about it is you're influencing it, at least in my experience as a product manager, because I influence, even today in my role, I'm a product manager, no direct reports, but I influence the activity of a lot of people, even globally, because our engineers are all in Pune, India. So you're, in essence, spending a lot of the company's money, and you're also influencing the profitability in the sense that you're influencing what that money is being spent on. So if you do a poor job of deciding what to spend that money on, and by the way, through your guidance, you spend a lot of it, then to your point, then you can, at the end of the year, you can stand back and say, well, I don't have P&L responsibility, don't look at me. But actually you do have, to your point, a lot of the responsibility. Any final comments before we close here that are important for the topic? Hang on, I'm coming to you.
So on this slide, I had the same comment that this gentleman had about the real control rests in the product owner side of things. But even in the bottom model, the locus of control is further from the customer, and that's the thing I'm struggling with. Right, and if the product owner is the conduit to the customer, if they have as much interaction as product manager, then they're effectively the product manager. So how can you have a product manager, product owner distinction without removing control from the customer? And that's the thing that we haven't figured out. I have teams where I'm the owner and teams where I'm not. And in both, you really have to settle on the right model.
And that's a good point. And to what I think it was what you were saying, Mark, earlier, I'm focusing on the customer here because I think it's the key leverage point and the key connection point when you're talking about product owner versus product manager. But let's remember there's a lot of other duties, as I think Mark was saying, buy, build, partner decisions, market, channel decisions, lots of other decisions beyond just what the customer needs that goes into that product mix as well. Yep. We got about 5 minutes left, I think.
The other thing we ran into was what the product was. So a lot of the product owners were worried with I'll call it a subsystem of the bigger product, whereas a PM we would own the whole product, including manuals, training, sales channel training, customer training, whatever, customer support. Product owners rarely had that, other than put into their products what they needed to support what I needed. So if we needed training, then they would have to give me drawings so I could put my training materials. As an example.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just as I'm walking over where I am right now, I'm a product manager, and we have multiple product owners for each of the applications in the portal that I manage. So it's very common to have a one-to-many relationship.
The other thing I'm observing here is that the product manager or product owner role, whichever you want to call it, is often an overloaded role. I mean, So one of the strategies
100%.
one of the strategies I've seen is that the role of the product owner is within a product management team, where that team provides a unified view towards the software teams that they're supporting, but also in their approach towards the customers. They work as an organization, and that as a team, they can fulfill the role more effectively than an individual person.
This is too much for one person. Yeah. Okay, any more final comments? I'm going to take the front here, because these guys have been too shy.
I'll just ask for a quick comment on the Agile methodology and product management and impacts, vice versa.
So, like pros and cons of Agile, or what value it brings? Okay, so I'll try that, and then we'll get the audience here as well. So, my experience, and I'm old enough to go back before Agile. I'm PA, I guess, pre-Agile, because I'm old enough. We used to develop in a waterfall fashion. So I was saying this also in my interview with Sasha earlier, which is to say, I could build a product that was taking 2 years to build. So to my point earlier, I would be spending the company's money. Let's say I had a team of ultimately 30 people, so 30 full-time salaries, taking 2 years to build a software product. I wouldn't know until at the end of those 2 years whether I had gotten it right or not. So if I got it wrong, I just wasted 30 salaries for 2 years, or, whereas with Agile, the idea is I do a 3 or 4 week sprint and I do a demo, and that could be to a customer or it could be to somebody that represents the customer. So I learn whether I'm on the wrong track a lot faster with Agile. Would everybody tend to generally agree that that's one of the main benefits? I'm gonna go here. He doesn't look like he's convinced. Yeah.
No, I'm absolutely convinced.
You're convinced?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay. It looked like you were giving me a shrug there. So that's really the main benefit. Is it's more efficient. We waste less money and we reduce risk by breaking large problems into smaller problems that we test more frequently.
Just a simple question. Do you bring your product owner into your Agile sessions and scrums? Like, how hip are you as you go through those iterations, if you are in fact divvied up that way? I'm just curious about how it works.
How tied am I to the product owner?
In terms of the day-to-day Agile scrums and what have you, in terms of just the day-to-day.
Yeah, I'd be interested in what the group said. For myself, I don't attend. I attend maybe weekly check-ins with the group, but definitely the product owner is involved with the team on a daily basis. Any other experiences in terms of how often the product manager should be in the dailies and in the trenches with the team?
I just felt like I should speak after the last time. Just as an addition to that, I mean, we do at our company, we provide an opportunity for anybody in the company to join in on the daily scrums. We have what's called a scrum training. So the morning stand-ups, there's a group that can go from room to room, and you can jump on that and become a part of that daily update. It's an opportunity to just get that if you want. The product managers are invited to that, the architects, anyone in that hierarchy.
Excellent. So I'm going to give you the last comment because I'm going to get the Yankee here in a second.
Definitely. Just a comment on the benefit of the Agile. I mean, you mentioned the point of the risk that is projected.
Smaller problems, yeah.
And then the other thing is that often the requirements will change over the course of the project. So having the Agile, you have the opportunity to add the changes during much earlier, because after 2 years, obviously a lot of things doesn't apply anymore. So.
Yeah, exactly. The future is accelerating, as they say, right? Well, thank you, everyone. I hope that's been an interesting session. You guys have been a great audience. Thanks for the participation. Thank you. So just 2 quick plugs. If you're interested in podcasts, check out readyproductradio.com. I will have my interview with Sasha in case you enjoyed his talk. We basically covered, the same types of items. I'll have that up probably by tomorrow afternoon. And again, strongly encourage you to look at the time that you have available to donate to the product management community here in Ottawa whether it's Product Camp or whether it's the Product Management Association. Having done that myself for the past 12 years, I can tell you that what I put on one of my slides is you definitely get out of it what you put into it and much more. And I know that organizations like that are always starved for really good volunteers that can really commit to the organization. So that's my last call out to you, or call to action, I guess, as the marketing people say, is donate your time, donate your energy. Let's keep the community engaged and growing. Thank you.
Today's podcast was brought to you by Under 10 Consulting. Get your product teams up to speed quickly with the latest methods and a proven process tailored to your organization. Thank you for listening to this episode of Ready Product Radio, part of the Ready PDM network. This is when most podcasters ask you to leave a review on iTunes if you like the show. My only request is if you found the show entertaining, inspiring, or informative, please share it with a colleague or friend who may feel the same way. Also, note that the views expressed in this episode do not necessarily reflect my views or the views of the Ready PDM network. If you want yourself or your product to be ready, then keep your eyes on your markets, your ears to your customers, your mind on their experiences, both good and bad, and finally, keep your hearts on your products. Until next time, thank you for listening. You can contact us on Twitter at Ready Product Radio. That's RDYPRODUCTRADIO. And on the web at www.readyproductradio.com.
Gee, mate, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.